It's 2026, time for a new Ask and Answer video. Let's dig in. Okay, let's start off with question number 1. Have you thought about reviewing the PR comics as part of a series on the channel? Actually, yes. In the past, I had thought of doing that. Now, I haven't read a lot of the comics. I read a few of the issues very early on when they first started, and I did enjoy them. The reason why I decided not to go forward in reviewing the comics is because I don't believe anyone would really watch those videos. I've tried doing other video series on my channel focusing on the different aspects of PR, and people haven't been really interested in them, so I said, I don't really see the point of me doing the comics. What type of music do you like listening to, and which song or artist do you recommend? Okay, I'm not really the best person to recommend music, but I do have favorites that I've grown up on. I prefer actually old music, but my favorite artist years ago was Linkin Park. I think everyone always says, Hybrid 3 was his best album, and that's the one I usually listen to. I'm kind of the guy who loves music like AC/DC, hard rock, kind of like probably why I've also gravitated to Power Rangers, because it has those elements in the early seasons of the songs. But usually I will listen to music score soundtrack. That's the reason why I've always wished Power Rangers would release the scores of the shows, like how Super Sentai does, but with PR's case, we rarely ever got those things. I love 80s music, early 90s music. If I'm going to recommend something, it's going to be from those eras. I hope this isn't a personal question, but you mentioned before your sister was the one who discovered Power Rangers first. Is she still a fan, and did she watch Super Sentai? Yeah, in my behind the scenes video, I actually do talk about it. She was the one who introduced me to the series completely. I would never have known it if she had never mentioned it back when I was like 7 years old. Yeah, of course she's also watched Super Sentai. I wouldn't say she's not a fan of it, but however, she had stopped watching the series back when Time Force was on. It was not like that she hates it, but it was just like, I just don't want to deal with it anymore. It's not like she wouldn't come back to it. I've shown her, for example, the Megaforce finale where they brought everyone back. Moving on to the next question. Have you thought of updating some of your top 10s, like best and worst Power Ranger seasons and episodes? That's a good question, and yes, the problem is I've done so many videos, I cannot remember exactly what I have done or have not done. I would need an actual list from someone who's watched all the videos to point out, oh, you haven't done an update for this one to include later seasons, which is perfect in this case because PR has ended, so currently I wouldn't have to worry about new seasons coming out and have to constantly add to that video. But I do want to do it. If you already know like what episodes I need to update, please put it anywhere. It doesn't matter what in any comment. Just put it there and I'll write it down. Have you thought on going back to toy reviews solo without Deca Blue? I'd love to see you review newer season toy lines from Japan or America. Initially, I had done this. Remember, there was like 2 or 3 episodes where we had come back to try to resume the series. But the problem is the reason why we stopped doing it in the first place. People stopped watching. Ultimately, I make videos on what people will watch, and I need the support in order to keep doing it because I have not really bought anything PR Super Sentai related for many years like I used to. When I did the series, when we first started all this, we had to always buy something. It didn't matter, used or new, it didn't matter. Every month or so, we had to buy 4 or 5 items in order to review something because we would have ran out of anything that we naturally collected because I don't collect everything. So it's a matter of finances of why I didn't do it, because I could technically do a few more videos, but it would only be maybe 6 or 8 more videos, and then I would be out of stuff to review again anyway, even if I just wanted to do it for fun. Next up, how would you make Mandalorian Zen-Aku's arch nemesis? Now, this would require a lot of rewriting. In fact, this actually would be a good idea of Ranger rewrites. I can actually pose a question because I think the main problem with Wild Force when it came to Zen-Aku, now this is also a problem because of Gal Ranger because they did the exact same thing. Zen-Aku basically got ignored after the whole where Merrick broke free of him. But we knew he still existed, obviously. He was still inside Merrick, but they needed the mask and they needed those moments. And then the only time we really ever see him is at the end of the series where I was like, wait a minute, he's separated from him? He's still alive? And the show never took advantage of that and didn't even explain it correctly. So in order to use Zen-Aku, I would have liked to him fighting the generals in a way as a cool way to redeem him, or at least just become a neutral enemy, kind of like Ryo and Melee had in Geki Ranger. I have one question. Why didn't Hasbro want to continue adapting more Sentai seasons? Now, I believe it really came down to one factor: control. Obviously, Power Rangers and Super Sentai are, using each other. The problem is Hasbro purchased Power Rangers, and they're a toy company. Now, the main major toy company with Super Sentai is Bandai. And, you have Hasbro, and Bandai lost the license, and you had another toy company that's kind of existing there. I don't want to deal with them anymore. And then it's probably on top of all the various other aspects, like licensing fee. You have to pay toy to license the footage. Then control. If you're following Super Sentai, whether you don't even follow the stories at all, but you still have to use the footage, you can't do virtually anything, even though the writers in the past have shown, even when they had the option to do anything, they didn't do a good job. Like, for example, Cosmic Fury. They went so far as to make original suits, but ultimately still did a lackluster job in doing a story because they just didn't have enough time. I want to be able to do X, Y, Z, whatever way I want, whatever character I want, and that could be a good thing, but it also can be a bad thing because I don't really trust Hasbro or any current company that has the Power Ranger license right now to make something good due to past, franchises. Look at Transformers. Hasbro ultimately has control over that, and look what happened to it over the years when they gave the license to Paramount and Michael Bay. It was mostly crap. Now, I enjoyed the first one, even though I have loads of issues with it, mainly. With movie one, it was the designs. I was like, okay, you do not look like the G1 designs at all. And I'm saying to myself, there's nothing wrong with the G1 designs. You could make them, which was proven in the Bumblebee movie. They want to redesign them because they can sell a new version of the toy versus trying to sell more of the original toy, because it comes down to like licensing agreements. You have Michael Bay and all those other companies, they would get a cut of that, but if you license specifically only the Hasbro designs, it would most likely only go to Hasbro's pocket. That's usually how licensing things work. And then also, like I said, they can redesign them for future movies so they can keep making different versions of toys. Because that's another conundrum and why Optimus Prime was killed in the movie. Because you have a series which is good, and the goal is to sell toys, which again, there's nothing wrong with that as long as you still make a good series on top of that. But when it comes to the overriding factor, you have Optimus Prime die, because ultimately what everyone was thinking was, we need to make new toys to sell for seasons 2 and 3. We can't keep selling Optimus Prime because after a while, everyone who wants Optimus Prime will have bought Optimus Prime, but you have 3 seasons to go through, for example. It's the same thing with Power Rangers. When Power Rangers was split up into 2 seasons, a Sentai show that only lasted for 1 year, you don't have a lot to do. They break up the toy line to sell between the 2 seasons, but you can only do so much. When you have Samurai and Super Samurai, the Samurai Megazord was sold in season 1, and then everyone for the past year bought that toy, and then most people won't really have it, so then you can't sell it anymore, but you're stuck with a second season that has to run for an entire year, so you only have rationed off like 6 Rangerzord, or that's why they make like all those different suit modes, because they have something to sell, because they can't just be selling the Samurai suit figures for 2 years in a row. It's a combination of so many factors, but it comes down to control. Next question. Have you ever tried getting into Metal Heroes before? Now, the obvious ones is, the Metal Heroes from VR Troopers, all the stuff that falls into it, Gavin, and things like that. I did. Metal Heroes wasn't as popular as Super Sentai or like, Beetle Fighters from Big Bad Beetleborgs. And, at the time when I was trying to, find out information from a lot of them, people didn't fan sub them, or they were never legally licensed here. Nowadays, we're lucky that Discotech, but I do want to really see them and watch them. So eventually I will get around to, get those sets and finally enjoy them. What are your thoughts on Project Red? Now, obviously, it's not Super Sentai. It's going to be just its own new series replacing Super Sentai. Now, I don't really have any, input on it right now because, it just started, and I usually wait to see reviews and wait until a good chunk of the show is out. I'm expecting it to do fine. Think of it back when the Tomoka Hero line happened. They had 2 seasons. So I don't have any negative thoughts on Project Red. We just need more time to see like where it goes. Next up, hi, my name is Josiah, and I have a few questions. First, do you like X-Men 97 and Superman and Lois? Well, I have seen Superman and Lois. I've only seen the first season, and I actually thought it was actually good, which was great because there was been so many bad DC shows. Flash, Heroes of Tomorrow. I initially liked the first few seasons of Arrow and stuff, but over time they kept getting worse. So I was expecting, oh my god, Superman and Lois to be crap. Luckily, it wasn't. I really enjoyed season 1, but I just haven't had a chance to get to see the other 3 seasons. When they were doing that show, because the way CW was falling apart, I thought they were going to cancel it abruptly. Because, you know, back when they were renewed for season 2, and I was saying to myself, oh, are they going to get canceled because CW is falling apart? All the other shows went down the drain because I don't have to see those flashbacks of the Flash with those lightsaber scenes. As for X-Men 97, I wanted to watch it, but because Disney has a horrible track record with all their shows. Now, I know a lot of people reviewed it very well, but there are certain things that I really got pissed off at them for doing it. And it ultimately, there are things in it, it's supposed to be a continuation of the other show, but it never 100% feels like that because it still feels like a modern interpretation of it versus actually doing it. I think the main reason why I just refused to watch it was because they recasted the voice actors. Obviously, some of the actors died in the interim between the 2 series, so you can't bring them back. But the people who were still alive, they got replaced. Do you have thoughts on the Disney Power Rangers reboot that's being made, and will you be making videos on it or reviewing it when it comes out? Yes, I will be making videos on it, but I don't have a lot of hope. As for the exact same problems with X-Men 97, Disney has a horrible track record for doing things right. I will take the 2017 Power Rangers movie as a prime example. It's a remake. It's supposed to be a reboot of MMPR. But that's only in name only. The reason why is because the characters are not the characters. Between race swapping and completely different personalities, they're not MMPR. Now, don't get me wrong. If they had made the 2017 Power Ranger movie as an original Power Rangers team, I would have been fine with it because ultimately that's who they are. Jason was not Jason, Billy was not Billy, Trini was not Trini, Kimberly was not Kimberly, and Zach was not Zach. I just don't have any faith when it comes to Disney or a lot of companies today because they've screwed up so many shows over the past 10-15 years. And for our final question, and why do you hate Jungle Fury? I've answered this many times in videos, top 10s, you could really check it out. But a simple answer would be the characters suck. Geki Ranger has a far more cohesive story where a lot of the powers make sense, the arcs that all the characters went, where Jungle Fury had potential. It doesn't mean, like, I don't flat out hate the show 100%, like every aspect is bad. Bulk of the elements are bad. Like Jared, for example. Jared as a concept is an excellent idea. His execution is bad. Casey, concept is good, but his execution was bad. Now, a prime example is when you actually get him right. Ironically, in Super Mega Force, where the season was completely garbage, but Casey in Super Mega Force was the Casey I wanted to see in Jungle Fury, because I didn't like his whiny aspect. You're trying to create this character, Casey, but you're stuck with the Super Sentai footage of Jan. So he has to have like some of these elements from Jan. Obviously, he's not his personality. And because of this combination didn't get balanced well with the writers, he became whiny in certain areas because ultimately he had to be removed from this particular episode because Jan wasn't in the episode. So he had to do this. It's the same thing with Jared. Jared as a concept is excellent, but he was crap because he just got ignored. He was nowhere near as good as Rio. He became a lost element to the story and he was worthless. Dominic, for example. What did Dominic do? I mean, Geki Chopper and Geki Ranger wasn't all that well done as either, but he was far more better than Dominic. And I like Dominic because they just didn't want to use anything from Geki Chopper and they didn't want to come up with anything of their own. So you have all these characters that just fall apart when bits and pieces of the characters work really good. That's the core reason why I hate Jungle Fury. Super Mega Force is still the most hated season of PR for me. That's it for Q&As. I appreciate all your questions. So thanks again for watching. I really enjoy doing Q&A videos every so often. And check out my recent video. I actually have reviewed for the first time a fan film called MMPR The Last Ranger Parody Number 7. See you guys next time.